Hello, guys. Welcome to 1325. You're alive, barely dot tonight. We're stepping out of the fantasy and straight into the mud-soaked reality of the Middle Ages. Forget shiny armor, noble knights, and romantic castles. Real medieval life? It's filthy, brutal, and smells like despair, mixed with livestock. Let's say you've just woken up. Congrats, you're alive, but so are the fleas. Your bed is a straw mattress that's more bug hotel than bedding. It smells like a barn because, well, it was a barn not too long ago. Your blanket, made of wool, crusty from a year of grime, and weighs roughly the same as a small farm animal. The church bell tolls your alarm clock from hell. Time to rise and shine in your one-room wooden hut, shared with your family, a goat, and a generous helping of rodents. The scent in the room is, let's call it earthy. A cocktail of body odor, stale ale, and something you hope isn't mold, but deep down know it is. There are no windows, no privacy, and absolutely no personal space. You're 22, which is basically middle-aged here, and every joint in your body creaks like a haunted door. You shuffle to the door, and nature's calling, loudly, but there's no toilet. If you're a peasant, your bathroom is a bucket out back, already overflowing thanks to Uncle Stan's. Bad turnips, you do your business, then toss it into the street. Yep, the street. Streets double as sewers. You yell Gardaloo Old French for lookout, but let's be real, nobody ever dodges in time. Toilet paper, not invented. You wipe with straw, moss, or your dignity, which disappeared 3 days ago. If you're fancy, maybe a bit of rag. Public latrines do exist, but they're crowded, stinky, and built for shared suffering. You made it out alive, barely now. Breakfast, hope you're not expecting pancakes. You're getting pottage, a sludgy stew made from yesterday's leftovers and whatever you dug up this morning. It's been simmering for a week and tastes like warm sadness. On the side, enjoy a brick-hard chunk of bread bulked up with acorns, sawdust, or anything that wasn't nailed down. Don't worry about drinks. You're starting your day with ale. Why? Because the water could kill you, but beer only ruins your mood. Meat, rare fruit, only in season. Spices, that pinch of pepper costs more than you make in a month. So, you chew your rock bread, sip your medieval brew, and try not to think about what else might have nibbled your food during the night. Now it's time to get dressed, and that's not much better. You own exactly one outfit. It's itchy, unwashed, and smells worse than your breakfast. If you're lucky, you've got an undertunic. If not, enjoy going commando in scratchy wool. Washing clothes, that's an ordeal involving rivers, ash, elbow grease, and the rare sunny day. Shoes, if you have them, they're leather scraps tied to your feet. Most folks just go barefoot through mud, dung, and who knows what dot your skin, constantly itching. You're basically a walking buffet for lice and fleas. Everyone's infected or poor. You'll be scratching yourself mid-conversation, and no one will blink smile. Probably not. Teeth are a nightmare. There's no brushing, no floss, and no dentists. Just rotting molars, swollen gums, and the occasional self-performed extraction with pliers. Toothache could kill you. Literally, if the infection spreads, you're toast. And yes, the guy cutting, your hair might also yank your teeth out. Good luck with that. With your aching joints, rotten teeth, and itchy body, it's finally time to head to work. No office, no lunch breaks, no career ladder. Just fields, dirt, and endless labor for a lord who doesn't know your name. You farm the land from dawn till dusk, 6 days a week. Your tools are primitive, your back constantly screaming, and your reward? Maybe a few coins. Maybe not, and that's just the morning. Welcome to life in medieval Europe, cold, cruel, and crawling with bugs. You still think you'd survive a day. Most people DIDN. Single quotes to welcome to Sunday in medieval Europe. Technically, it's a day often, lest you're harvesting crops, fending off raiders, or begging the heavens to save your toe from turning black. Because, you see, rest is a luxury, and survival doesn't clock out. If you're a farmer, which most people are, your work is back-breaking. Fields are tilled by hand unless you're rich enough to own an ox. You dig, plant, weed, and haul water until your spine resembles a question mark. No one's asking if you're okay. Burnout, not a thing. Mental health, that's called praying. And if you're a woman, surprise. You do all of that plus raise kids, clean, cook, spin wool, tend animals, and try not to inhale your husband's lice every night. Children start working around age 5. No school, no toys, just a splintered rake and a vague dream of making it to adulthood without catching the plague. If you're not in the fields, maybe you're a blacksmith, a tanner, or a barrel maker. Congrats, you get to work with fire, chemicals, or decomposing animal parts in a dark shed that smells like death. Pay just enough to keep starving at bay. Sick, too bad. Fever, drink some weak ale and push through. No one stops, because if you can't work, you don't eat. And if you don't eat, someone else takes your place. So you grab your shovel, ignore the blisters, and keep going. Work isn't a career here. It's a lifelong endurance test with death waiting at the finish line. Now let's talk about the weather. In medieval Europe, the climate isn't a background detail, it's another form of suffering. Winter, no insulation, no central heating, just wooden walls full of holes and windows made from stretched cloth. Your fire, barely more than smoke and disappointment. Firewood is expensive, and if you gather it from the wrong forest, that's theft, possibly even a death sentence. You wrap up in your one damp tunic, huddle by the embers, and still wake up with your nose frozen and your toes going numb. Frostbite isn't diagnosed. It's called bad luck. Summer. Don't get your hopes up. Your house becomes a sun-baked oven with no breeze, no deodorant, and no escape. You sweat through your layers, but can't remove them without scandal or sunburn, or insect bites, or both. The flies love your body odor. Mosquitoes buzz like medieval alarms, keeping you up while the neighbors argue through thin walls. In the fields, the sun scorches your skin. No sunscreen, no hattin', lest you made one out of straw and desperation, and you still have to work. Heat stroke, just taking a bad turn. No matter the season, your clothes still itch, your feet stay damp, and your food never improves. Welcome to medieval climate control. Suffer year-round, feeling thirsty. Want to wash your face? Good luck. In the Middle Ages, water is dangerous. It looks clean. It isn't. Upstream, someone dumped a chamber, or worse, a corpse. Every sip comes with a side of dysentery, worms, or death. That's why people drank beer. Even kids, not for fun, for survival. It was small beer, low in alcohol, but boiled during brewing, which killed some of the bacteria. Wine was a rich man's drink. Water was a gamble. Bathing, technically possible, practically discouraged. People believed washing opened your pores to disease. Dirt, they thought, was protective. And so, filth became a lifestyle. Communal bathhouses existed for a while before they became known for scandal and were shut down by the church. Even if you wanted to wash, it was a full-blown production. Draw water, boil it, fill a leaking wooden tub, and hope no one used it before or after you. Rain barrels, full of bird poop and mosquito larvae. Hygiene wasn't a ritual, it was a risk. So whether you're drinking it or bathing in it, medieval water is playing for the other team. Now let's say you're sick, really sick. Time to call the doctor. Sure, if you enjoy being tortured by someone in a robe who thinks your blood has too many ghosts in it. Medicine in the Middle Ages wasn't healing it, was guesswork with sharp objects. Illness. Blame your humors for bodily fluids. Blood, phlegm, yellow, bile, and black bile. Balance them, and you're healthy, out of whack. Time for bloodletting. Yes, they'd drain your blood to heal you either with leeches or a dull knife. Barbers often did it. You came in for a trim, left missing a pint of blood. Talk about full service. Feeling anxious? That's too much. Black bile, treatment, a purge, maybe some herbs, maybe a laxative, maybe just prayer and cold sweat while your family pretends not to plan your funeral. Break a bone, infection wound, no painkillers, no antibiotics. You're on your own. Pass out if you must. It might be the most peaceful moment you get. So here you are, exhausted, unwashed, underfed, and possibly dying from a stubbed toe or a bad drink. in medieval Europe isn't noble. It's not romantic. It's a slow grind toward oblivion, wrapped in wool and fueled by beer. Surviving the day, that's your victory. Surgery back then. Imagine rusty knives that probably hadn't been cleaned since the Crusades. Tools were heated over fires not to sterilize them, but just to look intimidating. Antibiotics? Not even a concept yet. No one understood germs. Instead, illnesses were blamed on bad air or God punishing you for your sins. Got a stomach ache? Obviously caused by sinful thoughts. So, you'd spend your time confessing while throwing up. If things got worse, doctors would pile on more leeches. Maybe crush some bugs for medicine and have a priest standing nearby, ready to give you last rites because death was likely the only cure. And if, by some miracle, you survived, everyone just credited God's mercy, and maybe the leech got a promotion. So, medicine in the Middle Ages was less about actual healing and more about surviving the painful treatments. After a day of back-breaking work, lice, and leeches, you'd finally sit down to eat. But here's the catch. Your food was probably trying to kill you. Preservation. Forget it. No refrigerators or freezers. Meat hung out for days, covered in flies, soaked in questionable brine, and maybe shared with rats. Bread was the staple, but in tough years, people stretched it with bark, sawdust, or even clay. Sometimes, rye bread came with a fungal infection called ergot, causing hallucinations, convulsions, and death. Basically medieval poisoned bread. Vegetables were rare and seasonal, mostly just turnips. Served boiled, mashed, or in pottage, a mysterious stew simmered for days, sometimes weeks. Fruit was a brief autumn treat, but it rotted quickly. Sugar was a luxury only the rich could flaunt, showing off their blackened teeth. Dairy was a gamble, fresh milk spoiled fast, and butter or cheese were full of bacteria. But you ate them anyway, because the alternative was chewing on your boots. Spices like pepper or cinnamon were worth more than gold, so peasants made do with onions, salt, and a lot of misery. Most meals tasted like soggy burlap sprinkled with despair. And food wasn't just dangerous, it was politically charged. Hunting game belonged to the Lord, so if you got caught poaching a rabbit, you could be fined, jailed, or even executed. Your dinner could cost you your life. After eating your suspicious stew by firelight, you might think the day's finally over. Nope, religion ruled every second. Missing Mass was a sin. Eating meat on Friday was a sin. Even lustful thoughts were sin's triple sins if you dreamed of your neighbor's wife. Hell wasn't just a story. Priests painted it in vivid detail: rivers of fire, lakes of boiling, blood, demons with pitchforks. If the plague didn't terrify you, eternal damnation surely would. You couldn't read the Bible yourself, it was in Latin, reserved for monks and nobles. So you depended entirely on priests to interpret everything. If your crops failed, it was because you didn't pray hard enough. Tithes, or giving a tenth of everything you owned, were mandatory. No goods, too bad spiritually and financially doomed. Holidays were mostly solemn mass, fasting, confessing sins. Question the church. That was dangerous. Heretics burned, witches drowned, skeptics flogged. So you played along, prayed, and hoped your soul might make it to paradise, assuming the priest liked you. For women, life was even harder. Born female meant hard mode, with no health potions or restarts. From childhood, a girl's future was set. Marry young, bear children, serve your husband, and die exhausted. Education, only if you were noble and sent to a convent. Otherwise, your lessons were chores and obedience. Marriages happened early, betrothed at 12, pregnant by 14. Love didn't matter. It was about land and alliances. Once married, you belonged to your husband. Your job, produce heirs, manage the household, and keep quiet, complain. You risked being branded a nag or even a witch, labels that often led to drowning or burning. Childbirth was a deadly lottery. No prenatal care, no anesthesia, just midwives doing their best. Many women died after multiple pregnancies. If you survived, your work only increased caring for screaming. Lice-covered babies while still working the fields and cooking. Unmarried women were suspicious. Widows were vulnerable. Strong-willed women, especially those with herbal knowledge, risked being accused of witchcraft and punished severely. Even in the church, women's roles were limited. Nuns lived under strict rules, with no freedom and always beneath men. Life for a medieval woman was about enduring, obeying, reproducing, and suffering silently, ideally with a smile. Just when you thought the day couldn't get worse, violence showed up loud, brutal, and accepted as normal. The Middle Ages weren't peaceful. Law and order depended on the mood of the local lord. Crime was common. Punishments were harsh and often public spectacles. Steal a loaf of bread? You might lose a hand. Accused of lying. Your tongue could be pierced. Gossip too much. You'd wear a scold's bridle, a metal mask with a bar in your mouth to silence you. Serious accusations like heresy or witchcraft. You'd prove your innocence through torture, like grabbing a hot stone from boiling water and hoping your hand healed without infection in 3 days. Fail, and you were guilty. Or you might be thrown in a river sink and die. Float and face punishment anyway. It was a cruel game of survival with no winners. Executions were public events, with crowds cheering for hangings, beheadings, and burnings. Medieval. Entertainment. Domestic violence was normal. Husbands disciplined wives and children. Street fights were common. You could be beaten just for looking the wrong way at a noble's horse. Wars and feuds simmered constantly. Someone was always off to stab someone else for honor, God, or boredom. Violence wasn't a failure of society, it was society itself. Life was fragile, justice arbitrary, and your neighbor potentially dangerous. If you somehow survived lice, leeches, hunger, and public humiliation, you still faced an early death. Living past 40 was a miracle. Half of all children died before age 5 from disease, malnutrition, or a harsh winter. If you made it to adulthood, your body was already worn out. Women's biggest risk was childbirth. Men faced accidents, infections, violence, or wars. Death could come silently from plague or famine, wiping out villages. Funerals were rushed affairs. No embalming, no fancy coffins. Just a hole in the ground and a few prayers. If there was space left in the churchyard, life was harsh, short, and constantly shadowed by death. You didn't retire, you just stopped showing up. And as you lay down at night, remember, this gritty, brutal reality was medieval life. Forget the fairy tale knights and castles. The past was relentless, painful, and unfair. Yet, despite it all, people still found moments of joy, laughing, singing, telling stories, and loving, because humans are stubborn like that. So when you slide into your cozy, warm bed tonight, with running water, medicine, and internet at your fingertips, maybe give a quiet thanks to the ancestors who endured rats, famine, and feudalism, so you wouldn't have to. Sophie was born into a minor German, princely family with little real power. Her small duchy in Pomerania was barely notable. Yet, she possessed something no noble title could grant: sharp intelligence, undeniable charm, and an intense ambition for greatness. Her upbringing was strict and cold. Her mother, Johanna, was a calculating social climber, obsessed with status. And her father, a distant Prussian officer, offered little warmth or discipline. From a young age, Sophie mastered the delicate balance between obedience and cunning. She devoured books, mastered several languages, and learned to read a room, before ever speaking skills that would soon be vital for survival in one of Europe's harshest courts. When Empress Elizabeth of Russia sought a wife for her heir, Grand Duke Peter, she looked beyond her borders. Peter himself was of German descent, and the Empress wanted a foreign bride who would be grateful and easy to control. Sophie was perfect. Noble blood, Lutheran faith which she would have to give up, and a reputation for grace and humility. At just 14, Sophie was summoned to St. Petersburg, arriving in the cold capital dressed in simple German clothes and wearing a practiced diplomatic smile. Her mother pushed her forward like a pawn, but Sophie had her own ambitions to fit in. Sophie converted to Russian Orthodoxy and took the name Ekaterina Alexeyevna Catherine. The public conversion marked a profound break with her past. She was no longer just a foreign princess. She was stepping into a new world with no chance to turn back. Nobody could have guessed what awaited that quiet teenage girl betrayal